I'm Sonny Liston, I'm Jack Dempsey, there's no one like me. I'm from Nairclaw. There's no one that can match me. My style is impetuous, my defense is impregnable. And I'm just ferocious, I want your heart, I want to eat his children. I was going to rip his heart out, I'm the best ever.
All right, we're back to talk about the return of the great Brandon Rios tonight. Fox Sports 1 against Aaron Hernandez.
Aaron Herrera, I think.
Aaron Herrera also might be fighting. Aaron Hernandez is currently, not with us. That's somebody else.
No, he's not. No. He's not current at all. And
no,
yeah, you need to relax, man.
Yeah. So
moving on.
What's
wrong with you?
I'm sorry, man.
Jesus.
We're here to talk about War Kovalev 2.
Part 2.
And unlike the horrible sequel we got last week. Was it last week or the week before? From Farah
no, that was last week.
Unlike that horrible.
Oh no, it was maybe the week before. I don't know. Who cares, right?
That's exactly.
The further away from it we are, the better we off are.
Exactly. See, now
what were your thoughts on that?
Now you
didn't say anything.
So, War Kovalev 2. We already know how War Kovalev 1 went down. You know, very controversial. Let's just get into it.
All right.
What do you got?
Who's gonna? Okay.
You can start.
Yeah, let's just get into the meat of this, and we'll break down the fight in a little bit. Is there cause for concern coming out of the camp?
You know what?
Of Camp Kovalev.
This hints on. I really have a couple points in terms of the rematch on my radar of what's important. And one is what you rarely see in boxing now because there really aren't that many rivalries and that many people. I mean, people they hate each other in the mix of training for a fight. They get a little juiced up. But
Wait, what kind of juicing are we talking here? Come on.
But I'm just talking about they get angry, but not that genuine hate.
Dislike.
Yeah, that dislike. Right. But in this fight, we have it. So that points to one of my keys to the fight, which is an intangible, which is just the bad blood and Ward kind of getting in the head of Kovalev a little bit.
Right.
Because he coming off the fight where Kovalev, felt he was robbed, and calling Ward the son of the judges. He hasn't. It doesn't seem like he's done a good job of just saying.
He probably called him a son of a bitch at some point too. He's been saying so many things.
It doesn't seem like he's had just a moment to say, all right, this shit is over. It happened. I don't agree with the decision. Let's train for the rematch. He just seems very angry. And to that point, they had a scheduled face off, which Ward calls off, right? So Kovalev breaks camp, goes down to I think it was Vegas.
Yes, they were Vegas because they were at the Triple G.
Yeah.
The Triple G Canelo announcement, not the Chavez Jr. fight.
That was not a fight.
Right.
So they were gonna do all that, and then what happens? Ward says, "You know what? I'm not showing up. Cancel.
I'm out of here."
Yeah. So that's another little thing that's just
They did say that the HBO crew had to get there at 4 a.m.
Yeah. So Ward's just really pissed. That's another little thing to needle him off. Then a couple weeks ago we had the story about maybe John David Jackson joining Ward's camp, taking a phone call he shouldn't have taken.
Right. And just to go on that. That's where the cause for concern comes because there's opposing sides to the story, right? Obviously. Yes. So I watched John David Jackson and an interview with him. I watched a couple of interviews of him talking about it and Ward talking about it. And John David Jackson saying, they were the ones that called him and made an offer.
Right.
But the interesting thing is he said, if they he said it jokingly, but usually when people are joking, sometimes it's just giving you the truth. He said, if they had made him a better offer, he might have considered it, jumping ship. So yeah, I just don't have a good feeling out of that. So with in regards to Ward said that it was John David Jackson that contacted them, and that he got on the soapbox and basically confessed to Team Ward that he was unhappy in Kovalev's camp, the way he's been treated, the way he's been disrespected, the way he's been disregarded, and that he wanted to come over. and possibly jump ship. But to me, whether that happened or not, I think it goes to your point.
Something happened, though, right?
Yeah.
Something happened.
To go to your point, though, I think this was just a little... Because Ward even said it. He was like, this came up to me. Whether they initiated contact or not, Ward found a way, another alleyway to piss Kovalev off and create a little controversy in his camp, and just to gain whatever little mental advantage he can before the fight.
It's just another little... And, it's a part of Ward's game that I don't think people knew existed, really, that mental edge, because, Ward is he's kind of viewed more as, he's just a clean cut guy,
Right. And a lot of his fights,
he's a rough fighter. Like, some people would even call him dirty, but in terms of just his approach, he's always very businesslike. He's always very professional, but he's doing a real good job at, and even in some of the interviews I've heard, he's on Bill Simmons' podcast, and I think he was on Sports Nation, some other crap he was on. He just the way he talks about Kovalev and just the condescending tone, you can tell he just looked like needling Kovalev just to keep stoking the flames, to keep the fire going.
Yeah, and
I think they want Kovalev to come in there angry and try to knock Ward out in the first few rounds and tire himself out.
Right. Essentially, they want him to just run into something.
Yeah.
Is what maybe not what they're completely banking on, because I think when you get to this level, I think both of these guys have kind of proven they could adjust a little bit. So,
maybe not run into something, but maybe get outside of the game plan.
Right.
To where you're like 4 or 5 rounds into the fight and you're like, oh, I've been fighting angry this whole time. Let me get back to the game plan. In the meantime, you've lost all these rounds that you've thrown away some rounds.
Right. But so something is going on with Kovalev's camp, because, why would John David Jackson even take that call?
I think from the outside, I think, all right, so he gets with John David Jackson, right?
Right.
He makes him a world champion.
Right. Does Kovalev think John David Jackson made him a world champion? I
think it's become clear in the last few fights that maybe the answer is no, he doesn't. But just from watching, we're just stating facts. He gets with David Jackson, becomes a world champion. It does seem in the last few fights, though, that he hasn't looked as right when he fought Chilemba, right? Everybody was giving praise to Chilemba, right?
Right.
And you were telling me that people are overrating the performance and all this, but it's that, like, Kovalev, he didn't look as dominant. Like, he won 8 or 9 of the rounds, but he didn't look as dominant. And maybe that was the beginnings of him kind of going away for the game plan and trying to just say, I'm good enough to do this on my own. I really don't need you.
Right. And it's interesting because I think a lot of this storyline for this fight, it has to do with Kovalev's side and how he's going to approach this fight. And Kovalev, he often talks. He said it numerous times. He doesn't like Andre Ward because he feels he's very cocky and arrogant. But I would say Kovalev's just as cocky and just as arrogant as Andre Ward. And it just seems that he runs his own show in his camp, because from interviews and reading and stuff that I've gathered, it's that Kovalev runs his own camp. He does what he does for his workouts. Like, John David Jackson's not like really actively involved in that part, which maybe a lot of trainers aren't, but maybe have a little brief overview of what's going on.
Right.
But with Kovalev, it just seems like it's divided. He's going to do his workouts, and then it seems like, to me, that John David Jackson's maybe just helping them, stay sharp with his skills, working the pads, the mitts.
You say John David Jackson is just holding the goddamn mitts like Roger Mayweather?
Well,
like Uncle Raj?
That's what I've gathered, because they said at a certain point, John David Jackson even said, "Did you watch the preview to this fight?"
Yeah.
There's a preview, the HBO preview, like the pay-per-view one. He's talking about, he's like, after like a certain point in the fight, he wasn't allowed to speak, and that Kovalev's Russian trainer was giving him all these instructions, and John David Jackson didn't even know what he was being said to him. Another telling thing is that John David Jackson said he didn't ever even know that guy. He says he doesn't even know if that guy's ever even boxed before in his life. So that's just like, like Kovalev is probably so good where he, most elite guys, I'm pretty sure they don't really need a trainer. They just need a guy in their ear. But to me, that's a little troubling, man, isn't it?
Well, if anything, it shows.
Is that?
Yeah, it's troubling, and it shows just a lack of, I don't know, maybe a lack of discipline for the fight. Because, yeah, you may not need. I mean, you still got to go through the motions and the process and training and the following the right channels. You can't, kind of show up the day of the fight and just have some fucking random guy talking Russian to you and telling your trainer for the last 5 years to shut the fuck up and you can't talk. I mean, what the fuck? What is that?
Yeah, the optics of that relationship doesn't look good. And I mean, I would just say that this relationship is shaky at best.
I would say win or lose, this is probably their last fight together.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna probably bring that up, and I mean, especially consecutive losses. I mean,
loss for sure, but even a win, I think this is their last fight together because I don't think. See, here's this is I don't think Kovalev is gonna follow. I don't think he's gonna change. I think he's gonna come out and try to knock Ward out. So I think a Kovalev win to him in Kovalev's eyes is gonna be a knockout. And in that case,
because he's just going to be like, hey, I just decided to just do whatever I wanted to do.
So in that case, he's going to be like, I don't need you for this. I can overpower this guy. So,
right. And then there's another thing that came about the aftermath of this fight, and that was the excuses. Now, I thought, look, we've debated this. We talked about this. I thought Kovalev won the fight, right? I watched it a couple of times. I thought he did enough to win the fight.
Right. But
regardless of that, there's still been excuses on Kovalev's side. Yes. And he's claimed he was overtrained for the fight. John David Jackson even said that there were some days where he was running 14 miles a day, and maybe John David Jackson could have been in his ear telling him, like, hey, don't fucking do that every day. That's not a good idea. So there's that. And then also, too, and it's telling, too, because these excuses have never showed up before other than maybe his work. I don't want to say worst, but maybe it's not his last two fights haven't been as dominant performances. Obviously, he got the loss against Ward, and then he struggled a bit in the Chilemba fight. So now we see, the training being used as an excuse, and they used that, he had a hometown fight in Russia. And then he had to do a lot of things. So these excuses, I'm not sure where they're coming from, if it's valid or if it's that maybe Kovalev at the highest level, when the stakes are as high, maybe he just doesn't know how to run the show as good as he thinks he does.
Well, here's the thing. We talked about that's a good point, because I want to go off of that. We talked about how you felt. Everybody, not everybody. A majority.
No, not everybody.
I would say a majority of the people felt that Kovalev won the first fight, and I told you at the time too. I thought Ward did enough to just eke out enough of the fight. But I definitely, and we argued, and because you like to argue about scoring, you get very angry about boxing scoring, and I told you at the time, right? I don't want you to get angry again, but I told you at the time, hey, you know what? Yeah, I can see where people say Kovalev won the fight. It's 50-50. And in close fights, I'm kind of not pissed in close fights who gets to win, because it's a close fight. But it did, just to bounce off your point, right? You kind of could see where at the highest level where maybe it got to Kovalev a little bit because he didn't manage the knockdown well, right? At that point in the fight, in the second round, you just put Andre Ward on his ass, coming off of a first round where you had him stunned and wobbly off of jabs. You have to manage that. There's no way you should lose. That's being up 15 in the fourth quarter in the playoff game, right?
Right.
That shit is over. There's no coming back from that. The fight shouldn't get to a point where you can, it can be a close decision. You have to manage that well. And that's the Mayweather, that's the Pacquiao, that's the elite fighters who've been in that situation. They say, okay, I have you here. This fight is pretty much over. Let me put it in the bank to ensure it, and then whether we take risk or not, we'll go from there. But this fight for sure is over because, you can't make mistakes at that level. So once you make a mistake against a great fighter, you give them the edge. Typically, fighters that elite, they say, you know what, it's a wrap. You shouldn't have made any mistakes. But the fact that he let Ward back into the fight, that to me is troubling, because that, like, it's a different level, right?
Right.
So, and early on, you saw, right, after Ward got his bearings around what, 4th or 5th round,
right,
when he started to feel physically, even if you don't, we're not going to go round by round, but even if those weren't the rounds, he started building up. But you can see that he physically was in it. You saw his game plan was like, okay, I just got rocked. I'm going to muddy the fight up. So if you're Kovalev on the other side, you got to say, okay, I see what he's doing, but this fight is over. Let me not engage in this, inside fighting.
He got caught up in the wrong game.
Yeah,
man.
and it's just like, but that's part of being in the moment. And then, so you take that, and then you bounce that off to the excuses point that you brought up, which is you lost the biggest fight of your life, right? But you didn't lose it in a way where you're embarrassed. It was a close fight. A lot of people felt you won. You have the rematch. You have the rematch secured. It's over. Bury that shit.
He's just too prideful, man.
Talk about that shit one time in the 24/7. Talk a lot of shit, but bury it. It looks like it's just burning deep into his soul. That's not good going forward.
Well, we could argue that certain athletes they do perform better when mad.
Yeah.
So
I guess.
I mean, it could go both ways. I mean, some guys get pumped, but it could also work to your detriment. But then the excuses didn't stop there. I've heard a couple of more. Okay.
All right. Let's go.
He also stated, when this goes to his stamina, he stated that he was shot after the 5th round. He was pretty much gassed out.
Right.
And then the last one is he claimed he overestimated Ward.
He overestimated
Ward.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. He did. I think he overestimated Ward. I think with him, that point was that just overall he overestimated Ward. Maybe he was training too hard, thinking that he was in, for the toughest fight of his career. Because, Ward in the second half, he definitely changed the momentum of the fight around, right? Yeah. But I would, we could debate or whatever or not. But just in my estimation, I would say the first half, or at least 5 of the 6 rounds, Kovalev, he was fighting a great fight. I mean, he was pretty much putting his imprint on the fight, and maybe at that point he was thinking, I can do this all night. This is easy work. And
then that's troubling too, because you're
half,
saying he overtrained because he overestimated Ward, right?
Right.
Because he trained for, it was the biggest fight of his life. Well, it turned out to be a really tough ass fight, so that training was necessary. Right.
But there's a thing though at this point of his career, because he's pretty old too. He's like 34.
Right.
And maybe that's, I mean, I could say the training as excuses are around for a reason. Some of them have some sort of validity, whether you want to give credence to them or not. He's just learning now after these last couple fights to dial it back some, because you're getting older. You can't. What did Mayweather say? Work harder. Well, no. What did he say?
No. Goddamn it! Come on,
smarter.
Get it right. Get it right. Damn it. Get it right. Work smarter, not harder.
Yeah. So I mean, you've got that element into it as well. So, but
right, let's talk about the actual fight, okay? Because there's two outcomes. Okay. There's two outcomes that you can frame. Because I know you have plenty of notes. You can frame your notes into these two channels and try to answer the question.
All right.
There are two outcomes of the fight that I would say are overwhelmingly, just on the table as the two leaders in the pack, right?
Right.
Number one is Ward by decision.
Mm-hmm.
And number two is either Kovalev by stoppage or Kovalev knocks Ward down and Ward survives the 12 rounds but really takes a beating. I think those are the two outcomes that really wouldn't surprise anybody based off of the first fight.
Right.
Okay. So what else could happen? What other outcome do you think is realistic of this fight?
You know what? I was thinking about it, and you know how you talked about how, if once you're at that elite level, you give that guy that space, that edge, it's over.
Yeah.
And in most cases it is, but when you're fighting another elite guy, it's not over.
Yes,
you
exactly.
Gotta be prepared. You gotta be prepared. I mean, I don't want to get NBA involved, but the Warriors handling business, and then if they take their foot, they might be better than the Cavaliers, but you take that foot off that gas from against another elite team, and they'll jump back into it. It's not. So you got to be respectful. You got to be able to, you can't just expect to dominate.
Yeah, the margin of error is much smaller at the highest level.
Yeah, exactly. So what I'm thinking in terms of other outcomes is I'm thinking it could be another similar fight, maybe with a knockdown, maybe not a knockdown, because when I looked and I've watched this fight a couple of times, I thought Kovalev was pretty dominant in the first half of the fight, and I thought Ward did a great job of surviving the storm. But with Ward, you would say that Ward had to work his ass off to really get back into this fight.
Yeah, I mean, he's fighting a bigger guy, and he was physically hurt early in the fight. Yes, he had to. I mean, it was a scratch and sniff type of win. He had to piece together. First, he had to piece together moments. Yeah, which then turned into rounds. He took whatever momentum he could to get back into the fight. So I don't know if Ward could, because I know that maybe before the first fight there was maybe this belief that Ward could just straight out school him, but I don't know. I think Kovalev's a little bit better of a boxer than many people probably had anticipated. And I think what people also saw in the first fight is the threat and the power of Kovalev neutralizes kind of the skill advantages that Ward has over him, because he has to be so respectful.
Because you always have to watch out for that one punch. Yeah, it's like you can have all of these little tricks of the trade and all these things you want to pull off in the fight, but you still have to be mindful of the one big punch. So with Ward, maybe he could win a bigger decision, but I still think it'll be a tough fight from the mental standpoint, because it's going to take 12 full rounds of focus, because if you let up at any point, one punch can end the night, period.
I would like to point out one thing about Ward that I've noticed since he's, since he's been back, you would say, since he came back to get ready for the Kovalev fight and the Kovalev fight, his timing has been off. Like you can see it, like when he's loading up and trying to land big shots, it's just been slightly off. Like it's
more telegraphed.
Yeah, it's not there though. He's missing the mark. Not by feet, but like he's just missed. Like let's say he's normally like a 50% 3-point shooter. He's like around 42%, which is still pretty good, but it's not what he used to be. It's just off. And you can see that he's just off enough. But you can also see, even though he's off, he has tried. And I know the guys he fought before Kovalev were just warm up guys, so you can't really put too much stock into those, but. He has tried with each guy to really land something big, and he was trying against Kovalev, but the timing's just not there. So I would like to I do want to throw that out there that I think part of their game plan is still going to be to try to land, because between me and you, most boxing fans, you'll probably say, yeah, Ward's not going to be able to hurt Kovalev, but I saw it in the first fight, and I kind of think they're going to try again in the second fight to try to land something big. Because you could see he was trying. It's just the timing's not there.
Right. And then, the other thing with Ward is that, I don't know. His offense is just not, that's the same thing you're saying pretty much. His offense is just not, he was better offensively before that long layoff. Yeah. Man. Yeah. And his legs were a lot better. Now, he did use some movement more than I kind of recognized at the time when he fought Kovalev. Yeah. So, but yeah, I'm going to need to see. If not, I think it's just going to be another tough fight for Ward where he has to scratch a sniff. But Ward's going to have to put together more offense, because it was all single shots against Kovalev, right? He would get inside the clinch. He would bang maybe a couple of shots to the body before it was broken up. Or he would land like a power jab where he would catch Kovalev off guard. Yeah. But right, so we definitely need to. I think he needs a big time shot. He needs something to make Kovalev respect him. because we know the approach. Well, let me ask you: is Kovalev is he going to try to fight the same fight, or is he just purely just going to say fuck it, and is he just going to go for the knockout? Is he going to just
Kovalev
dismiss Ward's power?
He will try to knock. He's going to try to knock Kovalev. He's going to try to knock Ward out from the first. I would say in the first 3 rounds, he's just going to go full gas and try to knock him out. And if he can, if he lands the way he was landing in the first fight, he will knock him out for sure. And if he doesn't, and I know you don't believe, I know you're going to disagree with me, but if he doesn't, in this scenario where he goes full all out and can't get him out in the first few rounds, he's going to be in big trouble, because he's already shown in his career that he gets gassed. He's going to be so fucking gassed, and Ward is going to pound away at the body, because that was the first fight. Ward changed the momentum by destroying him to the body. He can talk all this about, oh, this is ticky-tack bullshit. No, dude, you were hurt to the body. You weren't hurt like you were going to go out, but he stopped you. You were slowed the fuck down by that body work. So if he goes full out and can't get him out, I mean, it's going to be a long fight for him, because we seen this all the time in boxing. Canelo, Kovalev, all these guys. If you get tired and you gas out, that shit does not go away. That's just who you are as a person. You can train any way you want, go run in the mountains. You just get gassed out all the time. That's just it. That's part of you. It's part of your DNA as a boxer. It's not going to change because you had a special 2-month training camp. You're going to gas. That's how it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I mean.
So that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking he's going to go full all out, try to knock him out. And then after that, either we're going to see Ward being scraped off the floor, or we're going to see Kovalev having to really dig deep.
To me, and I think he's really pissed off,
Right.
And to me, I just think that I think he's going to I think he will have success, but I think I don't see him being able to knock out Ward. I mean, Ward's just too good. Even if his game, Ward's too good just for you to knock him out. I mean, I don't know how to say it, but he's not. Ward can take away your best weapon, and he can make the fight in a way to where you're not going to. I don't know. Ward just has this pride. You're not going to get the best of him. You're not going to embarrass him, and his will is too great to me, I believe, to get knocked out, unless he's just getting set up with something that he just never sees coming. So I think that Kovalev will come out. He'll probably have some success early, and I think the fight will play out the same, and it'll be minus the knockdown, and then and Ward gets a decision. I think it could be another close decision too, like another contested one.
Okay.
Because I just think that they're both kind of. I mean, I think they're more. It took Ward's layoff and some aging and moving up a division, but I think they're kind of around the same level. And not to take anything away from Kovalev either, because he's a great fighter. But yeah, I think Ward's going to find a way to get a decision, because I think he's going to erase that knockdown. I think he's just going to get started early, and that should loosen up the margin for him.
A huge part of me wants to just say Kovalev's going to knock Ward out.
What makes you?
I don't know, man, because Ward before that.
Is it just because you believe how pissed off he is?
Yeah, Ward was talking retirement, and then Ward was really shook in those first couple rounds, but he shook it off. So I will also take Ward by decision, which we're basically both guaranteeing a Kovalev win. It's going to be a great main event.
And Rigondeaux's fighting.
To usher in the main event, my boy Rigo is going to be on this 17-0, baby. Let's keep the undefeated streak going. Mayweather, we coming for you 49-0.
He only has 17 fights. He's like 50 years old.
I mean, when each fight is like you're
at this pace.
Hold on. When each fight is like you're painting a Picasso, of course you're only going to have 17 fights. How many fucking Picasso paintings are there in the museum? Not that many.
All right.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. We'll be back to recap this. Hopefully it's a great fight.
All right. See ya.